are sorry that we came a little late because the flight, our connecting flight from Dallas down to Memphis was delayed for almost an hour. So we were supposed to be here at 3:05 to be exact, but we came. That was almost 4 o'clock, and then we came from the airport maybe about almost 5 o'clock already when we came out from the airport, and then we arrived here almost 5 o'clock already, almost 6 o'clock when we arrived at Pastor Herson's place. So anyway, I'm so happy to meet all of you, and this is going to be a lot of information to take, but I'll do my best to simplify. Of course, we will have some technical terms to know, to learn about also, but this is what the Lord wants us to do. Because He loves us, it would be good for us to learn about the temple that He made for us. Amen. So He gave us life and strength, and that it is our responsibility to do the best we can in order for us to take good care of our bodies. Amen. A special gift that we received from the Lord, even at the time when we were still in our mother's womb. So that when we accepted Christ as our personal Savior, we know that part of our responsibility is to keep His temple without defiling it, as Daniel promised himself that he will never defile his body with things that are not in accordance to the will of the Lord. And we know his friends as well that didn't allow themselves to be defiled. And that is also the same responsibility that we have in order for us to better serve the Lord, and that we would exist to serve Him, and that our bodies would be a body of wholeness. Amen. We can better serve the Lord with clarity of mind, right?
Yeah.
With the strength, physical strength that the Lord provides us each day.
Yes.
And of course, with our spiritual strength, our spiritual connection with the Lord.
Amen.
So that I actually plan to do 2 sessions if we should have arrived earlier, but I understand that it would be hard for people to come as early as 5 o'clock, and we didn't even arrive on time. So then we will have just 1 session for this evening. We will be integrating the other session that we missed at any time tomorrow. And as I said, the Lord wants us to learn. In fact, in the ministry of healing, Mrs. White tells us that we have the responsibility as well to learn about our bodies. So let's look into lifestyle choices, lifetime consequences. Maybe, yes, if this one is not working, because I think there is a particular maybe it hanged. Okay. All right. I would like us to have our attention first with the experience of Esau and his brother. All right. So we can read the account in Genesis 25, verses 29 to 34. May I ask any one of you who may read the account, what was it that happened at the time when Esau was hungry? He was weary. So let's read through the account. It says, now Jacob cooked a stew. And we understand that Esau and Jacob were brothers. In fact, they were fraternal twins. They were fraternal twins. Esau was the one who came first, and then Jacob came next. So Jacob loved to cook. And so he was cooking his stew, and Esau came in from the field, and he was weary. He was so tired. You know, I imagine that coming from the field at the time, it's very hot outside, and that he probably was sweating, and his glucose level was just very low, that he wanted to eat. So whatever he could eat, he would just grab it and eat. And Esau said to Jacob, please feed me with the same red stew, for I am weary. Therefore his name was called Edom. But Jacob said, sell me your birthright as of this day. So you imagine the conversation. So Esau came in, he was so tired, hungry, and Jacob was cooking. And I could imagine that the stew was just so good to smell, and that would incite your salivation, that you really want to eat. And then Jacob took the opportunity, maybe he took advantage of the situation, that if Esau came in and he wanted to eat because he was hungry, so Jacob was there to take advantage of the situation, as if Esau was just pleading for food. He wanted to be fed, and that Jacob took advantage of the situation, saying, yes, I can give you food, but he said, sell me your birthright as of this day. And Esau said, look, I am about to die, so what is this birthright to me? Then Jacob said, swear to me as of this day. So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob gave Esau bread and a stew of lentils. Then he ate and drank, arose, and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. So could you imagine here the situation, the conversation between the two brothers? Such that, so what is this birthright for if I would die? Probably that's what Esau said. He just really wanted to keep himself from dying. So what is this birthright for? I just would like to eat because I'm so hungry. So he despised his birthright. He sold his birthright to Jacob for the lentil stew and bread. So you may imagine here what could have happened to Esau if he didn't plead for food. Maybe if you were Jacob, and if you were Esau at that conversation, what could be your decision? Will you sell your birthright?
It depends. If since looks like Esau was asleep spiritually, so he did not know the value and meaning of the birthright. So that's the only choice option he had.
All
Give it
right.
away.
Yes, it seemed like he had just one option to just eat. All right. Any other thought?
So why did Jacob not feel sorry for his brother and feed him? After all, his family.
Right.
And
Without bargaining.
Bible teaches us from the beginning, love yourself as others.
Mm-hmm.
And he should have offered, a brother, if you're so hungry, have some of my lentil soup.
Yes, yes,
So
that should have been.
Jacob was also at fault
Mm-hmm.
because he tried to trick his brother
Uh-huh.
to take advantage. So he did show kindness.
It did show kindness. So because in our culture, basically, if you see someone who is hungry, what you do is to give. Anyway, you are cooking, not probably just for yourself, but you cook. Most of the time, we cook not only for ourselves, but for others, for our family. And at times, we cook not only for just one serving, but there would be 2 or more servings, right? So what matters is we arrest the life of one who needs food, especially so that Jacob is Esau is the brother of Jacob. They were brothers. They were fraternal twins. Yes.
Seems like they are not close as brothers.
They were not close as brothers, yes, because there was very good observation. There was rivalry between them. I could see a hand there, and then I got.
In chapter 25, backing up a couple verses to 23,
Mm-hmm.
the Lord said to their mother, 2 nations are in your womb. 2 people shall be separated from your body. One person shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. And I suspect that the brothers knew this as they grew up. And so the younger thought this was his chance to fulfill, instead of waiting for God to make it so.
That may be the possibility that they knew, or even if they did not know, the Lord already saw what will transpire ahead. God has foreknowledge.
So it's prophesied.
It's prophesied
Yeah.
that even if they did not know about it, but yet the Lord already have seen that this will transpire in their lives. Yes, brother.
Yes, but according to the Bible, they was fighting from the very beginning.
In the womb.
Even in the womb.
Even in the womb, yes, there was already rivalry there, even inside the womb. Yes.
And Jacob was trying to help
So-
God out by forcing his hand there to take the birthright.
Yes. So that from the time probably, yes, this is now my chance to grab the birthright. Okay. Yes, brother.
So some people would say that when it was revealed that the younger brother would rule over the older brother,
Mhm.
is that prophecy or is that predestination?
We may not have the chance to talk about predestination, but we know that the Lord has foreknowledge. And the predestination that the Bible is saying is that we are predestined to be priests, which means that the plan of God for us is for us to do His will, and that's our predestination. That is, while the Lord wants us to do His will, yet He gave us the power of choice. Okay? Alright, so what may have happened here? So there was physical hunger, and thank you so much for your inputs. There was physical hunger. So, in medical terms, we call this as hypoglycemia. The glucose level in the bloodstream was low because the body maintains a particular glucose level. Okay? So in terms of HbA1c, we maintain between 5 to 6. If it goes beyond that, then you have hyperglycemia, and then if it goes below 4, you already have hypoglycemia. And most often, if we feel hungry, the sugar level is basically lower than 4. In terms of, for those of you who may know, in terms of mg per dl, the glucose level should be maintained between 70 to 110. If you could maintain below 100, that would be the best way to go, between 70 to 90 mg per dl. If it goes very low, lower than 60, then your level is just so low that you start having some hunger pangs. And that is an important a part of our system, because when you have the hunger hormones kick in, that is to arrest your body not to go, not to die of hunger, because at that time you need to eat. Okay? And you see, if you need to eat, the brain would signal much more. It tells us you need to eat, you need to eat. Because the brain is the one that needs so much amount of glucose in order to perform its functions. You see, the brain is the one that controls all other systems of the body, such that the brain would cry for food if the glucose level is going very low. So he must have hypoglycemia, and he must have had dehydration. In fact, before you feel thirsty, the process of dehydration has already advanced. Okay? So that you have to drink. So coming from the desert, you have sweat out because of the heat. So the tendency of the body is to move out the build-up of heat inside the body by sweating. So he sweat a lot, and that there is also we call it transpiration, not just mere expiration, but it is transpiration in the sense that even if it is not, you are not sweating profusely, but the skin, as the wind blows, it will lose some water under the heat of the sun. So Esau must have experienced dehydration as well. That at the time I would imagine that he needed at least a liter of water in order to satisfy and arrest his dehydration. And also, there must have been electrolyte imbalance. You see, when you sweat, try to taste your sweat. It is salty. That means that along with the sweat, you must have lost some sodium at least. And aside from sodium, there are other electrolytes there: sodium, potassium, and even calcium, and some other minerals that have to remain normal in the bloodstream. But after you sweat and then you don't eat, you don't drink, then you suffer from electrolyte imbalance. And the first one that suffers if you have electrolyte imbalance would be your brain. It's the brain that gets the biggest chunk of that imbalance. And thus the brain would tell you need to drink. So there would be, aside from hunger hormones, there would be some thirst clues that would be sent by the brain through the hypothalamus. All right. So with sweating, there would be electrolyte imbalance, and of course, the dominance of hunger hormones and the thirst clues that are sent out by your hypothalamus. Now, while there is physical hunger, then there would be a transient intellectual impairment. As I said, it's the brain that suffers foremost if there would be physical hunger that goes with hypoglycemia, dehydration, electrolyte imbalance, and dominance of hunger hormones. So, at that time when you have transient intellectual impairment, there would be inability to think intelligently. And so you can relate here that probably aside from sibling rivalry and other things, Esau just simply wanted food and water. And that, what then is that birthright to me if I would die? So I'll better eat. I'll better address first my physical need before anything else. It's just like how Jesus ministered to people. Feed them first, physically, before we feed them spiritually, because they need food. So, in order for you to think more intelligently, you have to have your brain to be nourished first. The glucose that is required, the electrolytes and the water that should be required should be given first to the brain. You know, the brain is at least 75% water. It can go up more than 80% water. Even other parts of the body would need water. Once you are dehydrated, the brain shrinks. It shrinks. And then with the electrolyte imbalance, the transmission of electrical impulses going back and forth through the brain and to the other parts of the body would be hampered. So there would be problems with the transmission of electrical impulses. And that with this, the brain would not be able to function well. Now, from the hypothalamus, the uppermost part of the brain is what we call the brain cortex. The brain cortex. Particularly at this part, we call this as the frontal lobe of the brain cortex, wherein that frontal lobe is the site for reasoning, rational thinking, decision making, personality, and others. So once the brain is affected, the foremost that would be affected would be our judgment, our reasoning, our rational being would be impaired. So then you address the physical needs of the brain, and that your body would be restored back to normal. And of course, along with this would be impairment of our ability to make wise decisions. The Lord gave us decision-making powers. God gave us the power of choice. And that if God gave us the power of choice, the Lord also gave us wisdom. Especially if we ask for divine wisdom. That if we are beset with things to decide upon, then we ask the Lord for wisdom. Especially at the time when we are confused. So at the time when we don't know what to do, we just ask the Lord for wisdom. And He will give it to us as we need most. Now, the wrong decision that Esau made for himself had trickled down through the generations. Between 1994 and 1995, I was in Israel in response to an invitation by the Israeli government to help them in doing some research at the Negev Desert. I was there for a number of weeks, and that I witnessed that there is still a conflict between the Jews the Palestinians, and the neighboring countries. It has trickled down through the generations. And we could see here that it may not be resolved, even when Jesus will come. Even at the time when Jesus came for the first time, that never got resolved. Until now, maybe we don't know what will happen, but such conflict has trickled down through the generations with just probably one serving of lentil stew. That part of decision making may not have affected so much on their generation, but the generations that came after has carried through that particular decision, wrong decision. I would say wrong decision because probably Esau may have realized that he must have done better. Instead of maybe selling his birthright to his brother Jacob, he could have prepared his own food, or he could have went to his father's well and drew water.
Oh, yeah.
Because at the time when you are hungry, you don't need food first. What do you think should you need?
Water.
Water first. You have to drink water first before feeding yourself with such physical, maybe solid food. You need to drink water first. So before you make a decision for yourself what to eat, you have to drink water first. In the morning when you wake up, water first. In fact, that's the very foundation of proper nutrition, hydration. You need to have water first. So if I were Esau, I don't know, I must have not fulfilled the prophecy or the foreknowledge of God, that if I were Esau, I should have just gone there to the well and then drew water for myself. But I was probably hungry that I just wanted food. But yet, yes, water first. And then probably if there may be some fruits there or anything, then you can just go and pick and then just eat. I don't know, but for me, if I would be in the garden, I could just eat the leaves there, even fresh from the garden. If I find tomatoes there, I could just maybe shove away the dust or the dirt, and then I could just eat. And my hunger would be satisfied. Now, what are the major aspects of our lifestyle choices as we relate this to our time? Diet is the first one, and that's related to temperance. Diet, which includes food and our drink. Now, even our first parents were tempted about food, right? Their loyalty to God was tested in terms of food. So it is the same temptation that people face even these days. It's more of the physical food, and then from the test, there could be something more that would be built in on our food choices. So that what are we going to choose between the cake or the apple if we are there going for a party? Which one should you grab? If you are going to grab, you have just one of the choices. What do you usually see? What people would grab?
The cake.
The cake, yes. The cake. Yeah, the cake. Why? Because there is an instant gratification if you eat cake. Maybe for apple, you have to eat it first and enjoy for some time until you are satisfied. But then for cake, even for the first bite, you have instant gratification. And people decide these days on instant gratification. Now, between vegetable salad and maybe what other, maybe sausage or what else? Pizza. Yes, pizza and salad. Why pizza? Why do people get the pizza first? Because the fat content there would give you instant gratification as compared to the vegetable salad. It doesn't appeal especially for children because what they want that at the first bite, they have that instant gratification. So we are in a society where we are living with instants. We have instant noodles. What other instant foods that we like? Canned goods. Just open the can and that you are satisfied. So we are fond of instant gratification, and sadly, people would decide first to take that instant gratification. So this is a challenge for many of us, and to note that because of this, people are getting sicker and sicker even in our own congregation. Even among us who profess to be followers of Christ, we are getting sicker and sicker. During the COVID pandemic, I wonder how many of you got sick? All right, there are several of you, or a little bit. You were affected as well. And you have seen people succumb to death, even our own people. Well, at that time, among us who are followers of the Lord should be able to withstand the test. And we should be there standing tall in the midst of people who are dying. And we should be there as God's followers to help the sick, not we ourselves being needed to be helped. Because at that time, during those times, you may imagine that in the end of the last days, the health message will go forward even much more to a larger and wider scale. Where will the people of God be? They will be there to help people get out from their sickness. And there will be more miracles. Miracles after miracles will happen in the last days. And we are now living in the last days. That we, God's people, should be the vessels for those miracles that will happen. Else? Moderation. Abstain from those that are not good. Yes, for the body. Those that are not good, you have to totally abstain from them. Those things that are good for us, we just have to set control. Right. Even water. You cannot drink too much water because you will suffer from a particular transient disorder, wherein there is too much water inside the cell and even at the environment of the cell, such that your electrolyte imbalance would also take place. So it's not also good, even if we say water is good, we don't drink too much water. immediately after meal, we don't drink water. That's part of our temperance as well. When do you drink water?
1 hour after.
When you wake up, 30 minutes, 1 minute.
Yes, as soon as you wake up in the morning, you drink water. Okay, that's the first that's your first duty to your body. Drink water. Okay. Of course, you have your personal meditations, your water, and then before you attend yourself to the bathroom, then you have to drink water first. That's the most important time that you drink your water. Hydrate yourself first. And then 30 minutes before you eat your meal, you drink water some more. And then 30 minutes after, when the food has already been digested from the stomach and that it goes down to the small intestines, that's the time when you drink your water. That's part of temperance. And then our fitness activities. People these days are having sedentary lifestyle. For my walking in the morning. So my dogs have been blessings to us as well, because we would be forced to go out and walk with them. So that would be a good form of exercise. In fact, if the dog would run and you are forced to run, that's the best way to go, because the body is dependent upon movement. Our lungs would function primarily upon movement. If you don't move, then you will start suffering from cardiovascular disease. You will start suffering from diseases of the lungs and others, because these organs of the body are dependent upon movement. The muscles and others are dependent upon movement. If you don't move, then this would start the organs to get sicker and sicker each day. Now we are also challenged with our schedules. Our schedules are just probably, say, too hectic, that at times we forget to have our personal devotions. Now, this is one thing that we have to resolve for ourselves, our schedules. Do the foremost with our interaction, our communication with the Lord, our meditations, before anything else. Before eating our physical food, we have to eat first our spiritual food. And so others will follow. As the Lord said, seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. And our priorities and prerogatives in life. What are our priorities? Are they material priorities or those immaterial priorities? As the Lord said, that we must invest on things for the heavenly throne, not on the things for this earth, where moth or rust would destroy them. So that our priority in life should not be on those material things in life. Now, modern lifestyle trends include bad eating habits and food preferences, and this ties with supposed to be our first presentation. Our abnormal appetite control and hormonal imbalance, boredom and sedentary lifestyle, fatigue after a long hard day, and stress. These are the things that beset us each day in terms of our lifestyle and abnormal work hours. I wonder who among you work night shifts?
At one time.
At one time.
Because I
At
was
one
a
time.
nurse.
And well, I have encountered several night nurses and healthcare professionals who go for night shifts, and they ask me, what do we do with our abnormal shifts? So I give them advice, and that they are able to at least approximate how to be healthy in spite of their abnormal shifts. So let me know if you have challenges like this as well. Now let's look into major endowments of a choice, because we started with the choice, the decision that Esau made for himself. So what is a choice? It is a definitive decision made between two or more options. To eat or not to eat, to drink or not to drink, to exercise or not to exercise. So you are going to make a choice from there. So at least there are two choices for you to make. These days people are confused because there are just a lot of choices, right? What helpful food should I eat? Is this healthy? Is it not? And even with a lot of misinformation in the internet, wherever we go, there are a lot of misinformation which to believe. And so people cannot make the right choice because there are just a lot of options. And a choice is a basis for a course of action. So once you make a decision, then you are going to do a course of action. You are going, in other words, you are going to act upon the choice that you made. And then this is also a trigger factor for a cascade of reactions and consequences. Now I would like you to note of the word cascade. What does it mean by cascade? Yes, it's one after the other. So it will be a trail of consequences after consequences. So if you make a wrong decision for one point, then there will be a consequence. And that result or the consequence will also result in another consequence, and another one, and another one, and another one. So it will be a limbo for many of us that we don't know where to exit from that trap where we are. So if you start, for example, not being able to drink, most of the time you are dehydrated, what would be the consequence? You may have headache probably, and then you feel fatigue. What would be the first thing that you do if you feel any pain? You go for pain relievers. You go to the over the counter, and then get a pain reliever. What do you think would be the consequence if you have that headache more often, and then you take those pain relievers? What do you think would be the consequence for the body?
You become addicted to it.
You become addicted. I heard the kidneys will suffer. Yes, the kidneys will suffer. And then after the kidneys will suffer, you will go for probably dialysis after some time. But before you have your dialysis, you will suffer from hypertension. Your blood pressure will persistently go up, and then from there you will start taking some medications. And those medications will further damage your kidneys, it will damage your liver, and then you go for medications again to treat your kidney disease and your liver, and then more medications will further cause the kidneys and the liver to suffer, and then you will have more diseases, maybe cardiovascular disease and others. And then you will be taking more medications So there will be consequence after consequence. So it's a cascade of events. Now, how do we choose? Now, there are levels of our choices. The first level of our choice would be the physical and emotional level of our choice. We look for the physical attributes of the thing that we are deciding. So, for example, between cake and apple, it looks like the cake is more appealing, right? Because we look at the different colors, how the icing was made, how the decorations were made. So it's more appealing to us. So we look at the physical attributes, and from there, our emotions would go into the physical attributes. So that's the first level. The second level is our intellectual and educated level of choosing. Intellectual in the sense that we balance the merits and demerits of it. So why do I choose cake? Because the cake would satisfy me. But then that is still part of the physical one, because you are looking for things that appeal to your senses. But then, at the intellectual level, you may say, yes, the cake has a lot of sugar. And with a lot of sugar, my triglyceride levels could go up, my liver can suffer, and I may develop fatty liver after that because of high sugar consumption. My immune system will be weakened, and then I could get sick. If you realize that, then you will say no to the cake. I'll better settle with the apple, right? So that's intellectual. And then the highest level of decision making, of making a choice, would be the insightful level, where we seek God's will. Now, I mentioned that there are a lot of confusions in this world, and such confusion would cause us not to make the right decision. But if we have a tendency, let's ask for God's wisdom. Seek God's will. So we pray about it, that even at the time when we need it most, the Lord will answer our prayers. Now, children are the ones who are vulnerable to wrong decisions, right? And as adults, we have to help them make right decisions. And so if we make right decisions, we influence our children to make right decisions as well for them. So how do we teach our children, even in their young age, that they could already make or develop the skill of decision making? First is for us to simplify. If there are several choices, then we simplify. For example, we present to them different colors. We have yellow, orange, and then brown, and other colors for them to wear or for them to choose. Now, how do we simplify that? We can make only two choices. For example, okay, you have bright colors or dark colors. Which one would you choose? Now, if he chooses the bright colors, especially for young girls, maybe bright color. Okay, now you have orange there, yellow, what else? Red. So between orange, yellow, and red, then have him choose one. Okay? Or if it's hard for him to choose between the three, then present first the two. Okay? The two, the red and the yellow first, for example. And then if he chooses yellow over the red, and then you present the other color, the orange. So you give them a choice 2 at a time. Okay, so that it's easier for them to choose. So simplify between the different fruits and between the junk foods, for example. So if you have different foods there, we have the chips, we have apples, oranges, and then pizza and other things. Okay, let's classify. Okay, these are the junk foods and these are the healthful foods. Which one would you choose? Of course, you help them make the right decision, especially if it is obviously as unhelpful and helpful foods. And then we have to refer to God's commandments. Did you know that even health laws have been instituted by God? The author of the moral laws is the same author of the health laws, the physical laws. And Mrs. White emphasizes on this in her writings in the Ministry of Healing, that it is the same God who instituted the moral laws and the physical laws. It's the same. He is the same God who designed us, and thus, with the design of man, He has given us those health laws. That if we don't know those health laws, let's look and search diligently. What are these health laws? Probably you may say, Dr. Tamayo, you have a better advantage because that's the one that you studied. But even before I studied formally in the schools, even in college or high school, before I went to high school, I started studying. There is a book that was circulated in the Philippines entitled Medical Guide, something like that, Medical Guide, or Modern Guide to Health. Modern Guide to Health. That was the book that I read before I went to high school, and I diligently studied that. I was only about to go to high school. So then, even young kids should learn to read and seek for truth, seek for knowledge, and we have to be thirsty for knowledge. But we have to be very choosy of what we are reading, right? So we can start with the Ministry of Healing, for example, or we can start somewhere else, those things that are simplified. And then we can start studying what does the body need? What are the requirements for the body in order to stay healthy? And then orient them about the existence of middle grounds in real life events. There are middle grounds, or maybe gray lines, that at times we don't know if this is true or not. There are middle grounds. For example, have you seen cakes that they put some fruits there on top? But that's still cake with a lot of sugar, right? Have you seen those strawberries glazed with chocolate? Those are middle grounds. And they say, okay, the kids love chocolate, so let's glaze these fruits with chocolate. Okay, but the thing is, they still enjoy the chocolate, that their tendency is to go back to chocolate. So that is not helping them, right? If we introduce to them middle grounds. Now, can you read Genesis 3, 1 to 5? Any one of you who would like to read Genesis 3, 1 to 5? You can read, please, sister.
Now the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, Has God indeed said to you, You shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, We may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden. But of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, You shall not eat it, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. Then the serpent said to the woman, You will not surely die, for God knows that in the day that you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil.
Thank you, sister. So from that passage, what do you decipher from those verses? Who is the author of confusion?
Satan.
It's Satan. Satan is the author of confusion. That, yes, God said this, but you will not surely die. So, you look at me, I'm eating this, but I don't die. So, Satan presents something to us that we are left confused. But if we are well grounded with the true knowledge of the Lord, then we never could be confused. So that we tell our children, as of course there are a lot of confusing information out there, but this is the truth. So every day, let's read for our children about the truth. What does the Lord wants us to do? Even with the health books that we have, let's have our children, not only the children's story that we relate to them, but let's give them lessons about health, so that from their young minds they will know what is the truth. We can tell them about sugar and the real sugar from their natural form, so that when they get out to the world, they go out to the world, they know what is the right thing to do. That even in the midst of confusion, they know what to decide. So how do you make wise decisions in the midst of overwhelming deceptions, of middle ground, gray areas, and half-truths? First is for us to clear confusion and indecision. We ask for wisdom in prayer. It says in James 1 verse 5, If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. This is a promise, that if we don't know, then we just ask for wisdom from the Lord, and he will give to us liberally. And the third is search your heart and analyze your motives. Your key there is motive. That's your key word. What's your motive? Why do you make such decision? What is your motive behind? Is it just for a show, or is it to honor God? It's just like one sister confessed last weekend with me. She said, I dedicated this house not for me to invite God into my life, but I dedicated my own house because I wanted to show to my friends that I have a big house. That was her motive. And she used to bring in people to her house to have party together, they eat together. And she just wanted to show to them that God has blessed her and she has a lot of money to spend. So God looks into our hearts. What is our motive? In Psalm 66 verse 18, if I regard iniquity in my heart, the Lord will not hear. So that even if we ask for something, if our motive is not right with God, He will not give it to us. If we ask for healing, and the Lord could see that you want to be healed because you want to go back to your old ways, will He hear your prayers? He may give you a chance, yes, but then if you don't hear Him again, then you will reap the rewards of your decisions. In James 4 verse 3, it says, you ask and do not receive because you ask amiss that you may spend it on your own pleasures. If we ask for something and our motive is just for our own good, not to bless others, then God will not give it to us. So God looks into our hearts. And then we have to believe in God's guidance. In Psalm 32 verse 8, it says, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will guide you with my eye. Again, this is a beautiful promise that if we believe, God will give us. Know God's instruction through His Word. The Bible is our basis in all decisions that we make. And then we have the spirit of prophecy. We have them available through our prophet, Mrs. White. And then there are other authors, God ordained people to write. Not only Mrs. White, but there are people who have written books. Even those physiology books that I studied, those are coming from the Lord. Because I believe that even if they are not Adventist authors, they were revealed part of the wisdom of God. How do I know that this is how the liver functions? I read it and I searched it and I studied it. I discovered through my research and other things. So the Lord gives us instructions, starting from His Word, the Bible, to those God-ordained authors and books. There are just a lot of them. And we just have to ask, God, please help me look for wisdom that came from you. And if I cannot read it from anywhere else, please tell me directly what you want me to do. There are other verses that we may not have time to read, but you can take note of those ones. Psalm 119, 10 and 11, and 105 and 103. And the number 6 is for us to seek wise counsel in Proverbs 11:14. Proverbs 15:22. So I would like to have you to bring this as your assignment. And look for providences in Proverbs 23 verse 9, in Ecclesiastes 8 verse 5, and in Romans 8:28. I think everybody knows Romans 8:28.
Amen.
Anyone who would like to recite? All things work together for good to them that love the Lord, and according to His purpose. And what is His purpose in us? To serve Him and to serve others, to worship Him. Does God ask us to exercise the power of choice? Yes. Do I hear a resounding yes?
Yeah.
Yes. God gave us the power of choice. He wants us to exercise our power of choice. In Genesis 2, verses 16 and 17, our first parents, Adam and Eve, were given the power of choice. And we inherited that same power of choice as the Lord wants each of us to exercise the power of choice. In Luke 10:41 to 42, Mary and Martha were made to choose. What did Martha choose?
Cook.
Yes, she chose those that were less of the Lord's wisdom, while Mary chose
To sit at Jesus' feet.
to sit at Jesus' feet. And we can make a choice, right? Instead of being worried about the cares of this world, let's not focus on them, but let's focus on how we could better serve the Lord.
Isn't it that we also need Martha in the kitchen?
That's correct, yes. That's a good point. We need also Martha, but if we have to choose between the two, which one should we choose? Sitting at the feet of Jesus or just cooking? Now, there may be time for everything. Before we prepare our food in the morning, which should we do first?
Drink water.
Yes, drink the living water first.
Study and Bible study.
Yes,
Prayer.
the living water before the physical water. And then between the physical food and the spiritual food, we choose first the spiritual food before the physical food. But then again, Jesus first appealed to the physical food before the spiritual food. Why? Because at that time, those people needed the physical food, satisfy them first, their physical needs before their spiritual needs. But for us who have known Jesus, let's have first our spiritual food and the living water before anything else. Again, seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. And in conclusion, I would like us to read all together. Let's recite Deuteronomy 30, verse 19. I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore, choose life, that both thou as vessels to expand His kingdom. He will empower